Alright, we were up to page 319. Mutar litol talit chavero. You're allowed to borrow your friend's talit. Ulvarech aleha, to make a bracha on it. Uvilvad. What does it mean you're allowed to borrow your friend? We already said that. What are you learning here new?
That you can make a bracha.
Wait, before that. That you can make a bracha? We already said that before. What are we learning here? What's this coming to you?
You're allowed to ask for it.
Let's literally translate. Mutar litol, it's permitted to take your friend's talit to make a blessing on it.
Oh, without asking.
Very good. You come to the Knesset, it's like yesterday's case. Eli is in New York, his talit is here. Are you allowed to borrow your friend's talit without his permission? Or is that stealing? I mean, can you say, oh, he'd probably let me use it if he was here? Maybe he wouldn't. How do you know?
He's a good sport.
No, I don't think that's allowed.
Maran says, yes, you're allowed to. And we're going to see, Barry, why do you think it's not allowed? Because not everyone agrees this is true today. Tell me what you're thinking.
Because it's basically like stealing. You didn't give your permission to take it.
Could you make an argument that if somebody leaves his talit in the Beit Knesset in plain view, the reason he leaves there is in case someone else needs a talit? For example, we have a minyan Rosh Chodesh and somebody shows up who forgot his tefillin at home, or he doesn't have tefillin. But there's another guy who didn't come to minyan that day and he keeps an extra pair of tefillin here in the cupboard. Am I allowed to use that tefillin and put it on the guest?
Yeah.
Can I say that maybe this guy leaves his tefillin here so that we have an extra pair when somebody comes who doesn't have tefillin?
Maybe.
Did you know, we do need an extra pair of tefillin because we once had a situation where somebody didn't have tefillin.
Yeah,
And nobody had what to give
But
him.
it's
Most
situational
shows have
to
it.
me. In some cases, yes. In another case, maybe not.
Very good. So let's just read Maran and we're going to go to the details.
I think if he leaves it in a public place, and
In a cabinet.
Could you argue that a cabinet in the synagogue is still a public place?
There's a lot.
A lot of people leave their talis in shul and cabinets, like we had in the old place. You had
Is that something that we do in order to let other people use it, or because we're too lazy to schlep it?
No, because you have one set at home, one in shul.
Well, most
I've
people
always
just
done
leave
that.
it in shul because that they feel it's easier.
Well, if you're there, it depends how much you go every.
Yeah,
Of course.
but
also,
the thing is, there's a kind of something you need to explain there. You translated it as a friend, or do you mean any talent?
Vero.
The Shulchan Aruch uses the word chavero, but I don't know that you could force me to say that it's really his friend. You're right, it could be just
Yeah.
anybody. Meaning his fellow person would be the better word.
Just
But in
fellow.
Hebrew, the assumption is that who is your friend? The other Jewish guy at shul must be your friend. How can he not be your friend?
Oh, right. All Jews get along.
That's what the assumption is. Maran couldn't believe someone's going to break the mitzvah of Avta L'Recha Kamocha.
Quick pitch for membership.
Yeah, it is true.
Chaver also means member.
Very good.
That's right. Yes.
You should know. By the way, quick pitch for membership. The summer months are always very difficult to live with Knesset, and the more members we have, even just for the summer, you want to be a summer member? It always helps us go along. I'm not making a joke. It's difficult. You should know. Until all Shana, the Knesset, if we're still here, it's a
You got the Catskills and the.
And let's read the rest of the sentence. Uvilvad. This is only on condition. Shikapel אותה. אם מצאה מקופלת. That you will fold it if you found it folded. You must refold the talit if that's the way that you found it. Let's not get stuck on folding. You have to put it back the way it was. If it was in a talit bag, then put it back in the talit bag. If the guy threw his talit on the, sometimes you go to the have like a wreck. So you don't have to fold it. You could just, maybe you fold it, the guy won't know where to find it next week. That might be his problem. But
Whatever you borrow it on Shabbat, in a shul where they don't allow you to fold it back.
In the
someplace
shul-
in the minhag of you can't fold your talit.
it's not, it's a halakha and Shulchan Aruch that you can't fold your talit.
Sephardim, it's a little different.
Absolutely.
You can't put your clothes on Shabbat.
All right,
You guys want to have this conversation?
Oh
It's a
yeah,
good
we've
conversation.
been there. Yeah.
We've been there, right?
Yeah, I think
Very
we talked-
simply, let me suffice to say. Shulchan Aruch says you're not allowed to fold your talit on Shabbat. Folding is one of the forbidden menachot on Shabbat.
it already has.
Well,
folded
you're doing a job.
It
You
already
know, the
has
folding on the
folds
lines
in
is one of the
halacha.
things that are forbidden in
You can
halacha.
fold it,
Because when they cut fabric, that's one of the melachot that they do in order to know where to snip the fabric. I believe, if I remember correctly, that's the origin of this. Or maybe not of the fabric, at the hides of an animal. Whatever it is, folding is the same thing as marking something.
oh, marking something.
But that piece of paper folds different than the garment.
Right? Though if you
Like
keep
when you fold
folding a
paper,
garment...
you've changed that piece of paper permanently.
If
When you
you...
fold a talit,
Not permanently, you can technically straighten it out. If you don't hang up your pants and you leave them crumpled on the floor, the next morning they'll be crumpled, depending what they're made out of. You didn't iron them.
cards on paper.
I know what you're saying. Different levels of marking. You know that in your talit, that one stripe that
Yeah.
goes all across? Because they ironed it that way. But if you keep folding your talit the wrong way, those marks will eventually get faded out.
Right.
The only reason that crease stays there is because you keep folding it on the crease.
Yeah. So the word fold means to put it into a neat thing, not necessarily fold.
I'm saying that what Maran is probably telling you is to be courteous and to put it back. You're allowed to borrow someone else's thing without his permission. Someone else's talit. It may not apply to everything. Someone else's talit, so long as you put it back the way you found it. Regarding folding a talit on Shabbat, Maran says you can't. But in the Bet Yosef, Maran brings down two opinions. One of them is the opinion of the Kolbo, who says that you can fold your talit on Shabbat. For a few reasons. When Maran brings down two reasons inside of his Bet Yosef, even though he rules like one of them in the Shulchan Aruch, what Maran is telling you is there is validity to this other reason. And Maran may agree or may not that when we accepted upon ourselves the rulings of the Shulchan Aruch, we accepted them as binding on us unless we have a minhag that is older than the Shulchan Aruch, that is acknowledged by the Shulchan Aruch as being valid. If Maran says this custom is incorrect, that's already a different story. But if Maran says this custom, he brings them both down respectfully. And we, many Sfaradim, had a custom to fold our talit on Shabbat. So obviously, well, not obviously, but we this is one of those places where we don't follow the Shulchan Aruch because our tradition is older than the Shulchan Aruch. Now we can make the argument a little bit better. Many of the reasons why you can't fold it is because you're preparing from a Shabbat till Sunday morning. Rabbi Shalom Asa says, but most of us have a Shabbat talit. In the sense we're preparing from Shabbat until the next Shabbat. We're not preparing on Shabbat for a weekday. Rabbi Shalom Asa also argues that your talit, when you leave it crumpled up, you actually are damaging your talit. It's not that you're trying to avoid, it's not you're trying to mark something. If you would leave your talit crumpled every week, and you should look at those synagogues where people have a custom,
Yeah.
their talitot look like rags.
Yes.
And they wear them, and it's not appropriate, says Rabbi
And
Shalom
also,
Asa.
it doesn't
It's-
look right
it's-
to walk into a shul and see things all over the place.
So I can't tell you that their custom is wrong because Maran rules like their custom. But I can tell you that those of us who fold our talit on Shabbat, we have who to rely on. A big
You
opinion
can
who to
fold
rely
it at the end of the
Service.
on. The hours that it takes between Shacharit and
Seven
Motzei
days.
Shabbat, I'm speaking from experience. My talit gets ruined. And if you compare my talit and someone who doesn't fold his talit, you'll see that there's a difference in the way a talit would look.
I have to go to the dry cleaner somewhere to get it pressed.
Yeah. If they care enough about talit, they go to the dry cleaner and get it pressed. But then Chacham Yosef did not fold his talit in Shabbat. He felt very strongly. Maran ruled. Harav Peretz, when he first came to Panovich in 1952, he was like a 15-year-old boy. He was folding his talit after Shabbat. He came from Morocco yesterday. And today he's sitting in Israel inside of a Lithuanian yeshiva from Panovich. It's not like he came from New York and like he didn't know any. He never in his life saw Ashkenazim before. And he's after services folding his talit, and one of the rabbis, I don't mention his name, but tzaddik that you would have heard of. If not, they probably have a biography about him from art school. Big rabbi. He ran, "Hey, Chilu Shabbat! How can you fold your talit on Shabbat?" Now my reaction would be, "Whoa! The Rosh Yeshiva just told me don't fold your talit on Shabbat. I'm not folding it on Shabbat." Rabbi Peretz's reaction was, "I don't know why you don't fold your talit on Shabbat, but my father is a rabbi, my grandfather is a rabbi, my great-grandfather was a rabbi, and they were all dayanim that was sat on Batei Din, and they all folded their talit on Shabbat. If you have a problem with me folding my talit on Shabbat, you can go talk to them, because they rely on the Chidah, Rabbi Chaim Yosef David Azulai, who says you're allowed to fold your talit on Shabbat." And he finished folding his talit, put it inside of the talit bag, and walked away.
Yeah.
And they kept him in Panovich, believe it or not. That's the Gadol story, you know, they let this crazy guy inside the yeshiva. At the end of the day, he was telling the truth. Our minhag is like this, we're allowed to. I'm not going to go scream at somebody who doesn't fold his talit, but also those of us who do. You shouldn't ever be in a place where somebody tells you, hey, you can't fold your talit in Shabbat. You can't fold your talit in Shabbat. I can't fold my talit in Shabbat. Where I see many Ashkenazim fold their talit in Shabbat. Where that comes from, I don't know, but I would be interested to know. Maybe the Ashkenazim also have an old tradition to fold talitot on Shabbat, in which case, there's a lot of us. So it's not just a small group of people who are allowed to fold talitot on Shabbat. Maybe the Shulchan Aruch's ruling is the exception to the rule. It's not actually the rule. So let's see here inside. Haga, the Rama steps in over here. V'hu adin b'tfilin.
Right?
It's the Rashi
In the Rama,
script.
the Rashi script. V'hu hadin b'tfilin. The same thing is true with tefillin. You're allowed to borrow someone else's tefillin and to make a blessing on them.
Can I ask, so that means that people who keep their tefillin and talits in shul in a cubby hole, it's fair game for anybody to use.
I know the shul you're talking about. The cubby holes there may be considered private. I don't know the social feeling in the shul. If you put your talit there, and that means this is mine. I could put my keys here. I could put my cell phone here. Nobody should be sticking their hands in here. I don't know if you pay for it. I don't know how that
Is the
works.
box
No.
issued?
You don't pay for the
Cubby was
boxes?
issued to you?
Are they issued? Like,
Well, I don't know if they do or not. I don't have.
does
a
it
cubby
come
hole.
along with membership? I don't know.
Yeah.
There are shuls that have lockers and all kinds of things like that that are.
Do you have your
And
tennis
that
racket,
you can make an
sneakers in there?
argument is not the same thing as
Yeah.
leaving it here in the cabinets.
In 770, they got lockers.
Lockers.
The-
Okay, and I own, so you can't break the guy's locker, take it to feeding it, right?
Yeah.
You'd have to use your sechel, and we're going to see that there are many details to this, because
Well,
it's
we,
not,
have, we have a tradition in another shul, our old shul, but even the,
Breaking
even
into
the
their-
rabbi's drawer is fair game. Yeah, so.
Barry, I'm looking at you.
And after you're through wearing tefillin, you said, "Whose tefillin are these? Where does this go?"
So here,
Oh, they're the black ones. Fine.
the Ramah says, very interesting. The Ramah says, the same thing is true by tefillin. What he's saying is also you have to fold them and put them back. Fold them the way the man leaves his tefillin folded.
Good luck.
Aval, listen very carefully, but אסור ללמוד מספרים של חברו בלא דעתו. You are not allowed to learn from your friend's books without his permission.
Interesting.
Dechayshinan, because we're worried shikra oto belimudo, that you might rip it while you're learning it, and you'll cause irreparable damage to this book.
You don't feel that about a talit or a tefillin?
Yeah. What about?
I mean, it's more. They're
tefillin?
definitely more
You're gonna
durable.
rip someone's tefillin?
Well,
Gonna make a hole in their talit? Not as much as a.
It's less, definitely.
well, you could break a see.
Someone tell me though what we're missing in this conversation. How much did you pay for your tefillin?
Yeah, tefillin or
Yeah.
talit could be quite a bit more money than a book.
Let's say a talit, because tefillin are expensive. How much does a normal talit cost?
About $100.
$100?
$100, yeah.
How much does this book cost?
Now,
25, 30.
Listen, 25, 30.
Yeah.
Would I be more upset someone ripping this book or ripping my talit?
They bring the
Totally.
Ripping your talit, probably. You have to understand that Maran is living in a world where books are expensive.
Yeah.
oh, and
I
handwritten.
mean, these are manuscripts. These are not it's not your printed chumash you get for $10 in the shuk. Your talit, everybody has clothing. Everyone knows how to tie tzitzit on their. Everyone knows how to make their own tefillin. What are you talking about? The world may have changed. And you're going to see the poskim address this. It could be that the things that were precious to them then are different. I mean, would you feel more comfortable lending somebody your siddur or your tefillin? Take it home for the day. Put it on. Probably your siddur. Is this Ramah still accurate? That's a great question. What we're missing here is the context of history, where we're standing at when Maran writes these halachot. These are not like Moshe Rabbeinu said, tefillin yes, books no. This is using his logic.
But is it derech eretz to ask before reading a person's book or using it? Let's say if I go to your house and I see a sefer on your shelf. Wow, look at that. There's a new Rambam on this. Should I ask you first, or can I just look at it?
I'm trying to look at their books from when I was
So
younger.
you're saying that it's a quantitative versus qualitative at one point, because
I'm saying that I'm not
books.
willing to make the decision now, but it could mean the poskim will. But yes, things may have changed in
The historical difference.
substantially. Like the world has really come to a different place. I can't find. I don't think I have books here that are from my days in Baltimore. You have to imagine this. Can I ask Doron this question? You're in a Beit Midrash, 500 people, all studying the same book. The whole yeshiva is studying tractate Bava Kama, Bava Metzia, Nedarim. You all buy the same edition of that book. So it's, there's like 3 or 4 types of Gemara. I'm sure they still have the guys who buy the cheaper one versus the bigger ones, or the laser print versus the photocopy print. I'm sure that's still a thing. But most guys have the standard red Oz V'Hadar Gemara. That's what they paid $50 for at the beginning of the year, whatever it is, and they use it 17 hours a day. The books get worn out. Where do you leave your book? Well, you go for lunch, right? You've been sitting in the same chair for 4 hours, and you're going to go to lunch. You'll be back in 45 minutes. You close your book, and you leave it on top of your desk. Some guy comes to the Beit Midrash during lunch, and his book is in the dining room because he still didn't go eat lunch. But he has to ask the Rosh Hashiva a question. The Rosh Hashiva is learning because the Rosh Hashiva didn't take a break for lunch. So he says, I'll take Doron's Gemara, and I'll go ask the Rosh Hashiva a question. Do you know how often you lose your Gemara in yeshiva? And then Barry's example, hey, who's tefillin? The black ones. That's not such a practical example because my tefillin is in a tefillin bag. And you have to now look for 500 Gemaras that all look the same on the outside, that all you have to open up. Maybe you didn't write your name on the inside because you didn't realize someone was going to take your book. Maybe you did write your name, but to know where your book is, you have to look through all of them. Maybe the guy took it to the dining room, he put it on the Rosh Hashiva's desk, and you're not going to walk up to the Rosh Hashiva's desk, and you have people who seriously, they lose other people's books all the time, very innocently. They don't intend to hurt or damage somebody, but they do. And then what happens? Doron comes back from lunch, he has a class that he's running 2 minutes late to, he can't find his Gemara, he gets in trouble with his rabbi why he's late to class, and for the next week he doesn't have a book to learn from. He's borrowing someone else's extra book, all because you wanted to ask the Rosh Hashiva a question. We sometimes don't realize that these put people in very difficult situations. Just last night, 3 o'clock in the morning, I got a question. Somebody woke me up from Israel.
Early.
And
That's why you text me.
a question I had to look up. This happens to me before. I come to look at my library. One of the books that I had, I lent to somebody, I don't know who, they never brought it back. I don't have the book in which to look up the question anymore. This situation happened to be, I was looking up the Shelot V'Tshuvot of the Tzitz Eliezer, the questions and answers of the Rabbi Eliezer Waldenberg. 27 volumes of responsa. I needed volume 13, chapter 80. That's what I was looking for. I go to my bookcase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 12, 14. Of all the volumes, 27 volumes, all the volumes to miss, that one.
It's like the 13th floor.
Yeah.
And listen, it's 3 o'clock now. I want to get the answer. I want to go back to bed. And volume 13 was used by my wife to give her class on Shavuot. And so she took it and put it with her books in her library because she was using it. And of course, it's my house, my wife. She owns my books. It's not like we have a separate. She's allowed to take the book. But do you know how long it took me to find that book? Busy 3 o'clock looking this way, that way. Maybe I put it on top. Maybe it's in my backpack. Maybe it's in the car. Maybe it's. Where did I use last the Tzitz Eliezer? These things happen all the time. People are always, Zev asks, can I open the book? My assumption is if you're in my house and you're standing on my bookcase, I let you look whatever books you want.
Now
As long
things
as you
have
take
changed.
care of them and you put them back in the bookcase, and that if you're going to borrow it, you're going to tell me about it first.
Now everything is smooth. Your wife knows when you take a book from you.
Oh, Baruch Hashem. I'm lucky that I have a wife who uses my books. I thank Hashem every day for this.
By the way, you can text me anytime. I do not disturb on my phone.
Okay, Baruch
So
Hashem.
don't worry about
So, why am I telling you this? That it could be that these stories are changing, but at the very least, to have the proper derech eretz, so when you borrow someone from something from someone, put it back in the place that you borrowed it. Now, we're all going on a very interesting assumption here, and that is that my friend lets me borrow his things without his permission. And we're saying that clearly it doesn't apply to all the objects that he owns. Your friend's on vacation in Florida doesn't mean you could take his keys from his cubby at shul and drive his car for a week.
it. Oh, that's easy.
Yeah, that's grand theft auto. This is the problem. It's an actual.
Arrestable
It's,
offense.
what is it?
Arrestable offense.
It's an arrestable offense. You can't just borrow.
I'll hook you up
Grand,
right away.
grand theft tefillin is not yet a crime in this country, but it could. You have to know who you're dealing with. So let's look. Let's look inside here. HaShoel mechavero talit mitzuyetz kehillat. If you borrow from your friend a talit that has tzitziot, real tzitziot, kosher tzitziot. באופן שמברך עליהן, it's in a situation where you can make a blessing on it. ייזהר להחזירה לבעליה בזמן, you should be very careful to give it back to its owner at the right time. ואם לא החזירה בזמן, if you did not give it back to him on time. I would argue that on time means you borrowed someone's talit today, it's Tuesday, tomorrow it's going to be Wednesday. If you don't put it back in his cubby by tomorrow morning when he comes to Shacharit, and he doesn't have a talit to pray with, that's not okay.
He's toast.
ואין לבעלים talit אחרת, and the owners don't have another talit לקיים בה המצווה in order to fulfill the mitzvah with. יש אומרים שלא יצא השואל לידי חובת המצווה. Some say that the borrower did not fulfill his mitzvah yesterday of talit.
It's kind of, but you can
והברכה שבירך נחשבת לברכה לבטלה למפרע, and retroactively the blessing that he made was a blessing in vain. Let me explain to you. Because your friend, the assumption is my friend lets me borrow his talit. In which scenario am I allowed to make a blessing on it? When he gives it to me as a gift on condition that I will return it. But if I take his gift and I don't return it, I put myself in a situation where I don't own it for the time period because I borrowed it not on condition to return it, and he would never lend it to me in that condition. In which case I wouldn't be allowed to make a bracha on that talit, and I wouldn't fulfill my obligation on that talit, and you can retroactively take away your mitzvah according to this opinion because you didn't return to him on
Does it
time.
also become a bracha in vain?
Yes, that's what he says.
That's really, I never was aware that you could actually take back a spiritual act like a mitzvah.
This is the Mishnah Berurah's opinion. Not everyone agrees, but this is Chavetz Chaim's opinion. V'tov, it's proper. שכאשר מחזירה לבעליה, when you return it to its owner, יאמר שנותנה לו במתנה, you should tell him, I'm giving it to you as a gift. Meaning you're returning it back, because now it's under your ownership. So in order to give it back to him, you have to return it to him as a gift in return. In any case, this is not, it's not necessary. You can, but not necessary. ואפילו לא אמר כן ונחזרה לו בסתם מצד ידי חובה, even if you just give it back to him without saying anything, you fulfilled your mitzvah. ואם נקראו הטלית או הציציות קודם שהחזרים לבעלים, and if something happens, damage to the tzitzit or the talit before you return it, יש אומרים שלא יצא ידי חובה. Some say that you did not fulfill your obligation. You didn't take good enough care of the talit, in which case he would not have lent his talit to you. And retroactively the bracha becomes a blessing in vain. And if the talit became dirty, you have to clean it or launder it or dry clean it before you give it back to the owner. Meaning you have to give it back to the person the way you got it.
In the same
You know,
condition.
sometimes you lend things to people and they give it back to you. I once lent a book to somebody. And I got it back, the corners were beaten up, the papers were falling out. It's true, he gave me back my book, but that's not how I lent it to him.
Yeah.
And you should know that anytime he asks me to borrow something afterwards, I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't have to put myself in a place where my things get damaged. You borrow, it happens a lot, bar mitzvahs, events, machot, sheva brachot. You borrow tables and chairs from your next door neighbor. And what did you do? When you folded the table, you dragged it on the concrete to the car. And so now this guy gets a table where the whole side is scraped up. That's a real damage you did to someone else's table. This is not allowed. When you borrow something from someone else, you have to treat it better than you would treat your own. And then the guy gives the table back, wonders why nobody wants to lend him tables anymore.
They turned the tables on him.
So,
Wow.
bad.
That was a Jack
bad,
joke.
bad, bad.
I said it before you could possibly
Well,
do it.
I mean, it wasn't in my train of thought. So,
מותר ליטול טלית של חברו שלא מדעתו. You're allowed to borrow your friend's talit without his permission, כדי לקיים במצוות ציצית, in order to fulfill the mitzvah of ציצית, מפני שמסתמה מסכים חברו לכך. Because probably it's assumed that your friend would agree to this. On what basis do you make this assumption? Our rabbis teach us the following phrase. נוח לו לאדם שתעשה מצווה בממונו. A person is content when you do a mitzvah with his objects or his money. Let me explain to you. Nobody's content if you rob his bank account and give it to the yeshiva in Israel. Okay, that's not what it's saying here. Imagine that Your friend, I leave my talit here in the Beit Knesset, and I'm not here for one day, and I come back the next day, and someone says, "Oh, you know, there was a guest here. We didn't let him use your talit." I said, "But which talit did he use?" "No, we didn't let him have one." I say, "I'm so sad that you didn't let somebody use. It was sitting here. Why did it have? What does it need to sit on the table for?" I would have much rather you lend it to him and put it back on the table than for it to just sit here. The assumption is that that's what a Jew should do when he leaves his things around. I want somebody to use my talit. I want somebody to use my talit. We're going to see this doesn't really apply to lulav and etol. Maybe people don't want it because you could ruin their etol. You could rub out the leaves on their... that's already... We're going to discuss all these things, not tonight, but in a different night. Let's see here. V'nachon yoter shelo yivarech. It might be better to not make a blessing because you don't really know if he wants to give it to you, or maybe perhaps you can't receive it as a gift from a person who doesn't even know you're borrowing it. And if you wish to make a blessing, you have on whom to rely.
If you want to make a blessing, you have on.
Yes. Let's read this list on page 322. ומכל מקום, in any case, אינו רשאי להתעטף על טלית של חברו שלא מדעתו, אלא אם כן בתנאים כלהלן. The rabbis say that you can only wrap yourself in someone else's talit on these conditions. The first one, שיעשה כן באקראי ולא באופן קבוע. You only do this sometimes and not every day. You can't consistently leave your talit at home and come and use your friend's talit every single day and wear it out and ruin it, and it's not, you get yourself a talit. So in general, it surprises me that people don't own their own talit, or they're always borrowing the Beit Knesset's talit. Or, I understand you forget once, you forgot twice, you forgot 10 times, but why would you want to pray and something doesn't belong to you?
Yeah.
Like, get your own talit, not because, God forbid, nobody wants you to use theirs. Because you should have a talit that you connect to, that you pray with. I'm saying on an emotional level. It's your talit. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov once gave his talit to somebody towards the end of his life. And he told this young man, he said, "Listen, please, when you put on my talit, have a lot of kavanah when you wear it. I cried many tears before I understood the value of this talit." I mean, talit is an emotional thing. I have parents sometimes, his kippah, it changes a new kippah. Actually, his kippah is getting very old. He's like, "Why do you get a new kippah? I'll buy you a kippah." So I have many kippot at home. He says, "So why do you change it? It already looks like a shmanta." He says, "You know how many mitzvot I did with this kippah? How much Torah I learned with this kippah? I don't want to just get rid of it." It makes him very sad. Imagine though you're always borrowing someone's kippah. What's this? Sometimes empower yourself by owning something on your own. שלא יוציאנו מבית הכנסת למקום אחר. The next condition is not to take it out of the Beit Knesset. You can't take it home and then bring it back later. וכן אם נוטלה מבית חברו, לא יוציאנו למקום אחר. If you borrow it from your friend's house, you should use it in his house, not somewhere else. I want to ask you a question that I'm not going to answer, and I don't want you to answer. I just want you to think about it. This question was asked recently in a rabbinic forum. If your next door neighbor, his wife, knocks on your door and says, "My husband took his tefillin to the Beit Knesset and he went to work. I put on tefillin every morning. Would you lend me yours?"
The woman said that?
Mrs.
Mrs.
Greenberg.
Bluestein?
Yeah.
Mrs. Greenberg?
She wears tefillin. She's a little bit different than everybody else. What do you do in that situation? Can Mrs. Greenberg walk into a Beit Knesset and borrow your tefillin?
I'd be so happy to. I just let them to the fair yesterday for checking and be back in a week.
How many? This is an interesting question. I don't want to give an answer. It's something food for thought. It just popped into my head now. שלא תבע טלית לידי הפסד.
We're going to be up all night thinking about
Yeah.
that.
Wait, you asked a question you know the answer to?
It's a thought I've been contemplating. שלא תבע טלית לידי... Don't understand me that I think women should wear tefillin. Don't understand that. The question here is
It depends on
sensitivities, halachic issues. Because we don't do something, to what extent do I not let someone else not do something that some might allow them to do? Questions that come up. I'm just thinking. I'm sure one day somebody will use this against me.
answer very soon.
שלא תבע טלית לידי הפסד, the talit should not come to any kind of damage. וירד ערכה מחמת השימוש בה, and it will lose its value because of something you did with it.
Lose the value.
And last but not least, המשיל אינו נמצא כדי שאפשר יהיה לשלול ממנו רשות. You can only take it without his permission if he's not there to ask his permission. This is important because someone has to say this. אבל אם המשיל נמצא, but if the guy is in the Beit Knesset
you don't
and you just
steal it.
steal his talit and run out the door, yeah, in that situation you're not allowed to borrow his talit. Rather, you have to. אבל צריך לשאול ממנו רשות. You must ask him permission. I mean, the only time you can borrow something from your friend without permission is when you have no way to. It could be that even this doesn't apply. He's in Beit Knesset. Maybe you have him on your speed dial on your cell phone. Maybe you should call him before you wear his stuff. So on Shabbat morning you can't. Okay, that's a great situation when you can't call your friend. But these are mostly common sense rules. These are not halachah Moshe Misinai. But you should know that people sometimes miss that common sense. They ruin other people's things. How many times do you see? I was once in a Beit Knesset on Tisha B'Av, and the rabbi stood up and made an announcement: please don't flip the chairs over and sit on them, because every year people break the chairs or they bend them out of shape because they sit on the chairs like that. And what does everyone do? They flip the chairs over and sit on them. Now the rabbi may not be the only owner of those chairs. It could be, but he's given authority by the Beit Knesset to protect the value of the Beit Knesset. And when you sit on that chair upside down, you're stealing from somebody. You are stealing not from somebody. This money of a Beit Knesset falls into a category of mamon hikdish, of holy money. Rabbi Talib used to tell us it's better to steal from somebody else than to steal from the yeshiva. Not God forbid, he was not encouraging us to steal from other people. But it's like stealing from the Beit Mikdash. That you come and you damage a Beit Knesset's property, sit in the chair upside down. You're hurting something. I know that somebody else is not going to fix it. And people, they have no busha. They're not worried about these things. Not halachot. Because sometimes people don't value other people's property. And it's one of the mitzvot in the Torah is to treat someone else's property like your own. What do you mean like your own? Don't use it however you want to use it. That's not what it means. Just treat it like your own with the respect that you would treat something that you value. You come out of a car in a parking lot, you just slam your door into some other guy's car when you're getting out of the car. No, you should move the car door slowly and step out of the car as you would be careful with your own paint on your own car. Now these things are common sense, but people don't always have common sense. Somebody said common sense is not so common. And so our rabbis decided to write certain things down to help us out with common sense. But I'm sure you can make a list of 5 more things you should be careful about with somebody else's talit. You know, there's a siddur floating around the Beit Knesset. I opened it up to pray with. It came to Torah reading time.
You hope you don't run out of the other 80.
And I opened it up, and there was lipstick prints all over the page.
Yeah, they kissed it?
Well, yeah, here's what they did. They went like this to the Torah and kissed the siddur. But they left their whatever brand of lipstick on the siddur. And that person, I'm not trying to be mean, God forbid, to somebody. That person shouldn't kiss the siddur. I'm not telling you this to be hurtful. They shouldn't, because that's called damaging someone's property. Or they should kiss it in the bag, wipe it off. I don't know how lipstick works, but a person should be careful with this thing. I don't wear lipstick. I'm not sure if lipstick come off
Next
of
time I catch you,
a
I kiss the Siddur.
But these are common sense rules of Torah, of mitzvot, of all kinds of things, not just talitot, tefillin, mezuzot, or whatever it is that we're dealing with other people's property. Be very careful with them. Because if we're careful with them, Hashem will take care of our property as well. Everyone should have a beautiful evening.